So when you decide to get help, it's not just about you. You have no idea who you might influence. You have no idea who looks up to you that is now willing to get help themselves because they saw that you were willing to do it. Welcome to the VetRise Podcast. I'm your host, Juan Perez. My goal is to make success after service accessible to every veteran in society. I believe in the power of leveraging your service, not as a label that defines you, but as a launching pad for your next chapter. What we have been doing hasn't been working, and it's on us to start changing the culture. Enjoy the episode, and thank you for your time. This is the VetRise Podcast, episode number 12. I am your host, Juan Perez. Today, we're going to be talking about how starting therapy, for me, saved another man's life. This is not only a near and dear topic to me, this is the most important topic. This is life. This is the most valuable thing that there is in the entire universe. You can't put a price on it. I'm sitting here in my studio with the lights off, wearing my hat and my headphones and praying that I don't shed any tears today. It's hard to talk about this. It really is. There's no easy way to have this conversation. But at the end of the day, the reason why I started this business, the reason why I decided to help veterans was because I wanted to change veteran culture. I wanted to make sure that no more of the children of friends of mine grow up without their fathers. I want to make sure no more kids grow up without their dads or moms. I'm tired of it. It's too many. And I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm sure you have experienced it because unfortunately, the tides have changed and I think we are losing more veterans now to suicide than we lost in the last years of me being in the war. And I don't really care if those numbers are right or wrong. That's what it feels like. And I think personally that something has to change. The veteran culture has to shift. We have to stop thinking that what we have been doing has been working because it hasn't. The fact that veterans get out and they think they can't talk to anybody, they think that they're going to be looked at like they're crazy. They think that they can't speak about their problems to anybody. That's an issue because that's how it was in the military. In the military, you don't talk about your problems. You can't approach anyone with the issues you're having. When I got out of the military, I kept that with me. I refused to say the P word because I wanted to get a career in law enforcement. And everybody told you that if you ever even think about wanting a career in law enforcement, don't you ever dare say the P word. So I never did. I went years ignoring it, pretending, lying to myself as if I didn't have any PTSD, as if I didn't have any trauma, as if I didn't have any issues. And the longer I went denying my problems, the harder it got, and the more they became prevalent. I did go into law enforcement. I did go into law enforcement, and I did hate my life. And I really do mean that. Because I went into law enforcement, I gave it everything I had, and I thought that I was using my skills as a Marine Corps infantryman, as a scout sniper. But no, I was just angry all the time because I kept the ego with me. I was cocky, I was arrogant, I was egotistical. I only cared about me and I only cared about being the very best. And it cost me my first marriage. It cost me a lot. I gained 50 pounds I was drinking every night. I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I used to take the streets home instead of the highway because I knew that there was 2 McDonald's on the way home and that one of them was bound to have the ice cream machine working. I hated everything about my life. I just didn't admit it. I didn't admit it. Why? Because I was me. I was supposed to be this hardcore Marine Corps scout sniper team leader that was now working in law enforcement. And I was supposed to be this tough son of a bitch. How the hell is it that I could have problems? How the hell is it that I could be weak? I could need help. It didn't make any sense. But I couldn't stop crying. When I was in Afghanistan in 2010, there was a death that for years I felt responsible for. Up until recently, I've come to learn that the circumstances were different than what I remembered. I remembered it one way, and you couldn't tell me differently. And I'm not necessarily sure if I'm right or wrong, but in the end now, it doesn't really matter, and here's why. I felt like I was responsible for someone's death. Not because of something that I didn't do or something that I did. I felt like I was responsible for someone dying because I wasn't the one that died instead. And that sounds so dark to say. But I can say it out loud and I can say it very simply because I've said it over 100 times in therapy. I've told this story over 100 times in therapy. And I didn't plan on telling the story today because I have all this doubt and self-limiting beliefs and these nerves and, well, what if I tell it wrong? And what if somebody hears it and they judge me? Or what if somebody hears this and thinks that I'm weak? But I realized that the whole point of what I'm trying to tell you and teach you and talk about, it would mean nothing if I don't tell you the story. Because me getting therapy and me being able to talk about this helped me heal. And me being able to heal helped show other people that it was possible to heal, that you can go to therapy, that there's nothing wrong with it. In 2010, when I was in Afghanistan with my platoon, Lima Company, 2nd Platoon, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, we had just pushed to Safar Bazaar. And we were on patrol. And our point man, Colin, stepped on an IED. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was carrying an MRE box on my shoulder because we needed to be resupplied. I don't know how, but we got an MRE box. I remember I was carrying this stupid MRE box on my shoulder thinking, what the hell am I doing? I'm in Afghanistan and I'm carrying an MRE box on my shoulder. And I just remember this like loud pop and just smoke and then just raining dirt. I was the 4th or 5th man from Colin. I remember the squad leader getting on the radio. I remember the team leader immediately taking charge of the situation, trying to keep us all calm. I remember rushing up there with my saw, trying to find something to do, work. And now I'm having doubts of telling this story. Because who am I to tell someone else's story? Especially without the conversation that I should have had before this. But this is raw. Like, this is me bringing it all up and telling you the truth. And like, I'm not going to edit any of this out, but I'm going to tell you my side. I'm going to tell you my truth. And eventually I will tell you the entire story, but not yet. So the explosion happens. We're able to medevac Colin out. And I remember that there was this staff sergeant that all he was concerned about was the fucking rifle and where's his NVGs and did his pet fall off his rifle. And all I could fucking think about was, fuck you. Like, this just happened and you're fucking worried about a fucking PEC 16? I remember the anger. I still feel it right now. We moved on with the mission. He got medevaced. We spoke to him, I think, a couple of weeks later, maybe a month or so. But fast forward, eventually we set up a patrol base. And at the time, we were using this methodology of trying to find evidence, thumbprints on the IEDs that the Taliban was using. And we had an EOD team. And they went out to the blast site that Colin had been at, got blown up at. Or at least I thought they did. And to this day, I'm not sure. But from what I remember, they were at the same site that the original IED had gone off at. And I remember the explosion. I remember hearing it, and I remember hearing over the radio, and I remember hearing the story about what happened to the Marine. He's about my age now, or he was then. His name is Gunny Hawley, Floyd Hawley. And I remember him having children probably around the same age of the children that I have now. And all I could think about was that why wasn't it me? I was 21 years old, no kids. Why couldn't it have been me? Why couldn't I have set off the IED that he set off? Because I literally thought that it was in the same exact location that I had been sitting on weeks prior. And I was angry. And I was frustrated. And I didn't understand why it had to happen to him instead of me. I thought for years, and I mean years, that it should have been me. It should have been the 21-year-old Lance Corporal, not the 34 or 35-year-old gunnery sergeant with 2 kids and a wife at home. It didn't make any sense to me. I've come to find out that perhaps it wasn't the same exact location. But even then, that doesn't take away the guilt that I felt for years. I was angry for so long. And because I wanted to go in law enforcement, because I never thought that I could get help, because nobody in the military gets help, especially when you're in. And when you get out, you don't talk about your problems. You just fucking suffocate them. You drink them away in alcohol. You get angry all the time. You go to the VFW and just get drunk. That doesn't work anymore. Getting help and going to therapy is a choice that you make. And when you make that choice, when you decide to actually do something about it, you have no idea the power and the control that you take over your life. You take back the power. You take back control. Because that mayhem that you've been feeling in your head, that distress that has been going on forever, it doesn't just stop magically. You need to address it. All right, let's stop for a minute. This is the part of the episode where I ask you to do me a favor, but it's not a favor for me. It's a favor for your fellow brothers and sisters that served with you, do me a favor. Think hard and share this podcast with someone that you think would benefit from it. If you know someone that has been struggling, if you know someone that is going through it right now, and you know that they want better for life, they just don't know how to do it. If this podcast can help them, do it. That's it. That's my only ask. If you want to follow me, then great. You want to subscribe? Go for it. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for your time. Back to the episode. And when you do address it, when you finally decide to get therapy, to go to the VA, to go to another program that is sponsored by the VA, it's going to be fucking hard. Especially the first time you go, the second time you go, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. Eventually you get over that hill. Eventually it becomes easier to talk about. Eventually you start realizing that there was very little you could have done and that it is not your fault. That whatever you went through, whatever you experienced was real and it was messed up and it was unfair and it was evil and it was all these things, but it wasn't your fault. And you are living your life now. And the only way to do that is to heal. The only way to do that is to face your emotions, not fight your demons, not just suffocate them, not pretend that they're not there, not use dark humor to just make fun of a freaking serious situation, but to actually start addressing your problems, to start looking at them, to stop turning off the light and start looking at them and shining a light on them. And when you look in your closet and you see all these evil demons that you have, you're going to find more. But unless you address them, unless you start doing something about it, it's not going to go away. And that's what I did. I started therapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and it worked for me. It worked. It gave me the power to actually speak up about my shit. I went to the VA, I got a rating. I was able to speak up about the things that I went through. And because I did that, because I was willing to speak up, and because I publicly talked about it once or twice to a few veterans that I know, I received a phone call one day from a veteran that I served with. And he told me that he had a gun to his head a couple of days ago. And that seeing me post, I think, a selfie or a picture of me at the Road Home program getting therapy made him realize that if I could do it, then it wasn't weak. He told me that he had already said goodbye to his kids. He had left his wife a letter. And for some reason, he got on social media and he went on Facebook and he was scrolling and he saw my post about starting therapy. And that at that moment for him, everything shifted. Everything shifted because he realized that if I could do it, someone that he looked up to, someone that mentored him, someone that brought him up in the Marine Corps, someone that was there for him, that he saw as this indestructible Marine, which I wasn't. But if someone could get help that he saw as a higher power to him, then he could get help because he felt like he was underneath all of it. And he called me and we stayed on the phone for hours. And eventually we were able to get him into a treatment facility where he was able to get help. And the only way that happened, the only way that any of this happened, that he's still here with us, that he's still is here with his children, his wife, is because I was willing to speak up a little bit about it. And if one post on social media 10 years ago was able to help him, then who the hell am I to not share and post and talk about this as loudly as I can to as many people as I can, to as many veterans as will hear this? There is no weakness in getting therapy. There is no weakness in seeking help. It is only fair. It is only right. Everybody went through something. And don't you dare judge another veteran's experience. Unfortunately, you just can't. You might have a chip on your shoulder. You might feel like this salty grunt that has done so many cool, amazing things. Cool, I get you. But other people experience other things that you haven't experienced, and you can't judge them for that. You can't. So I want to tell you that if you're listening to this and you have thought about starting therapy, even if you've been out for 10, 15 years, I don't care. This is your sign. I promise you. It's going to hurt at first, but eventually you will heal and you will feel free from it all. I couldn't tell half of the story of what happened before. I couldn't even get through the first sentence without crying. I couldn't. Now I can talk about it because I understand that it wasn't my fault. I understand that perception isn't always reality. I understand now that the circumstances might have been completely different and it might have been a completely different location where he was blown up. But I promise you, getting help and going to therapy can save you. And if not you, it'll save someone else because you have no idea who you influence and who you inspire and who looks up to you. Because you talking about it and you doing it, I promise you, there is a way forward. And before you know it, you'll be able to hang out in crowds. You'll be able to go outside with your kids. You'll be able to go to the park without worrying about this or that. You'll be able to be around loud noises. You won't feel as anxious. You won't feel as much stress. You will feel much better. I promise you, you can let it go. I don't have a lot of the issues that I used to have a long time ago. Why? Because I've worked very hard at it. Because I understand that I am in control of my life and nobody else is. And if I'm going to fix my issues, then I am going to fix my issues with help, of course. But that is me fixing my issues because I sought the help. If you've ever thought about starting therapy or going to the VA, there's nothing wrong with doing it. It'll give you clarity. It'll give you understanding. It will give you peace of mind, and eventually it will give you peace. Because we should not just be surviving in chaos. We should be thriving in peace. You are out of the military. You deserve that. Your children deserve a father. Your wife deserves a husband. Your husband deserves a wife. Don't do this to yourself and cut your life short just because of the feeling that you're feeling temporarily. This is a hard topic to talk about, but it's the most important one. It's life. It's life. And I don't want to go to any more funerals for friends that took theirs. I don't want to go to any more funerals for any friend that took their life. I don't want to. I really don't. It's too many. And on that note, we are going to wrap up here. Thank you for listening to the VetRise Podcast. I know this one was a rough one, but I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I know that we all have valuable days and valuable time, and you vote for what is important to you with your time and your money, and you are spending your time here with me, and I thank you for that. This is the VetRise Podcast, and I am your host, Juan Perez. Thank you for your time. I want to add one more thing. I don't want to end on that note. I want to add one more thing. I want to tell you that I believe in you. When no one else will believe in you, I will believe in you. If you need someone to tell you that it does get better, this is me telling you, it does get better. If you are in that 5-year mark of being out and you feel like you're at the worst, trust me, it took me 10 years to figure out what it is that I was doing in my life. 10 years. It can take you a lot less if you start paying attention a lot earlier than I did. You don't need to drink every night. You don't need to eat fast food to feel better. You don't need to be in pointless relationships. Yes, I said it. You don't need to be friends with people who you don't need to be friends with. Make the life that you want for yourself, because nobody else is going to do it for you. You are in charge of yourself. Nobody else is. There is no platoon sergeant to tell you what to do. You are your commanding officer. Learn to live your best life. You deserve it. And on that note, again, thank you for your time. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the VetRise Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, made you think, or simply just gave you hope, I have a small favor to ask. Share it with just one veteran or someone you think could benefit from my message. Your share could light a spark for them. You don't know who you might save. For more insights and to join this mission, follow my socials at JP the Veteran Coach and explore how we can rise together. Thank you for joining us, for being part of this journey, and for believing in the power of rising together as veterans. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep rising, and never forget we are stronger together. My name is Juan Perez, and thank you for your time.